And welcome to A Breath of Fresh Air. This is the community embracing and supporting sustainability and leadership that you always knew had to exist. This is a place where you can feel like you're swimming downstream, not upstream. The top questions that reporters ask me: number one, how do you have hope in this environment, with the environment the way that it is? And what's one thing we can do today to make a difference? I'm asked that because I'm interviewed a lot. I never expected to be known as the first guy in 4 billion to live off the grid in New York City, or hasn't filled a load of trash since 2019. This is 2 years worth of trash for me, and it used to throw out trash every week. Or hasn't flown since 2016, or who dropped his environmental impact over 90% in under 3 years. Here's a graph, according to one of the online footprint calculators, that in 2016, it was about this much, a little less than the US average. And about 2.5 years later, I was down actually to less than the average person in India. These individual actions, they get a lot of media attention, but they're a distraction from my real work, which is leading cultural change. But the media likes these things. I was on the front page of the Metropolitan section of the New York Times for a 2-page spread. Never expected that. Big Daily Show piece. They had a big 7-minute segment on me. I was on a TEDx stage 4 times. The New Yorker, I was in twice in 1 year. Here I'm in Japanese TV, German TV, Korean. They did a spread on me, lots of other stuff around the world. A piece that I wrote was in Time magazine about living off the grid. Big publication. Ars Technica, I wrote a piece there. It was the #1 piece for 3 days in a row. As much as I live more sustainably now, for 40 years I lived the opposite. When I was a kid, I remember learning the phrase, whoever dies with the most toys wins, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to have the most toys. I loved flying. I loved takeout. I needed these things for most of my life. I would fly to California to experience nature, to go camping in Yosemite. I'd go to Miami to relax for a weekend. That's just what I would do. Why not? I knew about our environmental problems, but for every reason that you could give not to act, I could give you 10, and that's why I didn't act. Today, people ask why I do so much. Why are you so extreme, living off the grid, things like that? Why not just go along like everyone else and stop making me feel guilty? Just like my mom says things like this. Why aren't you angry at the billionaires like a normal person would be in times like this? Why aren't you angry at the corporations, at the Republicans, at the Democrats, at the boomers? Why don't you blame all of them? They're so guilty, everyone says. Why don't you feel despair like a normal person would in a time like this? Why don't you feel more anxiety? Why don't you feel hopeless like some people do, or helpless? Why don't you give up and just give in like a normal person does at a time like this? Why are you so enthusiastic, Josh? Why do you take responsibility for problems that you didn't cause? No one else does. Now they also ask these days, why are the people who read your book and take your workshop also so enthusiastic? Why don't they give up? Why do they work so hard and seem to enjoy it? It's not just you, they say, and it's not just about me anymore. In their words, people who've done my workshop, the course doesn't prescribe what to do, but it helps you look at your internal motivation and values to decide for yourself. I don't tell people what to do. They describe it as empowering, as joyful. I'll let you pause this if you want to read all the details. I'll just get the bold stuff. They call it a breath of fresh air. This is one of the greatest classes I've ever taken. This is about my leadership class. It was engaging, thought-provoking, challenging, and fun. Josh is an incredible teacher. This is the wave of the future. I'm thrilled to be part of it. Caring for the environment doesn't have to be a chore. It can be fun and inspiring. That's what people do who do the work of taking the workshop. About my book, best-selling author Sebastian Junger wrote, Joshua Spodek has written a stunningly elegant and powerful guide on how to be a human, jumping down. His reasoning is impeccable, his arguments are brilliant, and his writing is a deep pleasure to experience and to learn from. So check out my book, Sustainability Simplified. And then here is by Oliver Burkeman, who wrote this book, an amazing book, 4,000 Weeks. Also another one, Meditation for Mortals. And he wrote about the Spodek method, which I teach in the workshop. It's not a question of having to choose between self-gratification and being good to the planet. People will discover something very rich, full, and meaningful in life by approaching limitation in the same way that we do in the workshop. And then about the book, Alan Eny of the Boston Consulting Group. He's not just a consultant, he's the global lead for creativity. He says this extremely powerful book will resonate with anyone anywhere on the political spectrum who dares to look at the world and their life through fresh lenses. It will unite us. Unless you think the environment is something only for people politically left, this book is a masterpiece. Rob Harper Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, from bluer than Bernie to a proud Trump supporter like me, I'm sure you're concerned about the world we live in. He doesn't claim to be on either side of the political spectrum. He's living by his values. And my book, Sustainability Simplified, shows how to improve the environment without having to protest or shout down others. This is appealing to people, old, young, rich, poor, left, right, up, down, everything. But back to people's questions of me. Often they ask, do you not understand how big the problems are? Do you not get what the situation is? Are you so privileged that you can't understand the plight of the less fortunate? Are you callous? Do you not care about the people being hurt? Sometimes they think that. Maybe that's why I'm so enthusiastic. Do you not care about the younger generations? On the contrary, compared to nearly everyone I've met, I know more about our environmental situation. You might know I have a PhD in physics. I also have an MBA. I understand more who's responsible. I connect more to those suffering most. The difference is, it's not that I'm callous, it's not that I'm insensitive, it's not that I'm privileged. The difference is that I've found ways to act effectively, and these ways work. They create joy, reward, and gratitude. That's what people wrote about who take the workshop, who read the book. So people want to learn and to share and to act. I've developed tools to train others. So when you take the workshop, you get a breath of fresh air. You get to be in this community where we feel like we're swimming downstream, and you can help others join. So my book, Sustainability Simplified, it tells my story, including my moments of deepest despair. When at the store, when I realized that for all my accomplishments, I couldn't even eat. I was shopping for food and I realized I only knew how to get packaged stuff. I couldn't eat. I couldn't live without hurting people. Was I one of the bad guys? How could I live with myself? How did I reach that point? It was a really difficult period. So how could I get back out? And I've learned that the cure of sustainability is not worse than the disease of our environmental situation. It's better, and not just in my opinion, it's better by the values of people doing it, the people who take my workshop and act on their own for their reasons. And anyone can learn how to live more sustainably and train others in sustainability and sustainability leadership. It's experiential to learn this stuff, so you learn by doing. It's not lecture. Like listening to Beethoven, words only point to what I do and what you'll learn to do, but I'll try to describe. Like any performance art or any sport, how you learn it is practice, 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 and in particular, practicing the basics. And in sustainability leadership, our basics are a leadership tool we call the Spodek method. It's a conversational method that unearths universal, intrinsic motivations toward nature, health, safety, security, stewardship, community, and family, and it empowers people to act on them. So you will bring about all of these things. The Spodek method teaches to evoke values instead of imposing values, listen instead of lecture, support instead of judge, empathize instead of blame, act with compassion instead of tell people what to do, inspire instead of manipulate. I don't know about you, but the messages, what I got on sustainability was all the stuff on the right. People trying to impose their values on me, to lecture, to judge, to blame, to tell people what to do, to manipulate. And the Spodek method leads to evoking values, listening, supporting, empathizing, acting with compassion, inspiring. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you'd prefer to deliver? The Spodek method and the workshop transform apathy to enthusiasm, anxiety to confidence, inaction to effective action, resistance to gratitude, ignorance to desire to learn, ideas dying on the vine to ideas spreading. That is, before the Spodek method and the workshop, I felt apathetic and anxiety, and I didn't act. I resisted acting. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't want to know. And ideas I had to act on, they would just die on the vine. I didn't feel like doing these things. Now I act with enthusiasm, with confidence. I'm acting effectively, and I know why and how. I feel gratitude toward the people who brought me here, to the people who I teach and who inspire me back. And when I learn about these problems, I want to learn yet more. And it leads to ideas and actions spreading. If you bring me joy to where I thank you, and you teach me to do it with others too, so that I can bring others joy and they thank me, I can expect to bring them joy, so they will thank me too. And I can teach that, and I can teach them to repeat that process. If each person shares with more than one person, that's the recipe for exponential growth and mutually supportive community, based on each improving his or her own life. No coercion, no manipulation, no telling people what to do, helping people live by our values. From there to global cultural change, That's what you're going to get here. Global cultural change. It does begin one person at a time. That's how it has to begin. But from one person changing at a time to global cultural change, you will see when you do the workshop and when you read the book that it's like water flowing downhill. It's just people naturally doing what works because we want to live more sustainably. There's no convincing, cajoling, coercing, or manipulation necessary. In fact, those are counterproductive. What happens, here's our culture today. The mainstream view, this is a Venn diagram. There's activities that we like. This is the mainstream view, I believe. Most people I talk to feel like there's activities we like and there's activities that help the environment and there's no overlap between them. The core of the Spodek method is this, what I call a mindset shift, which leads us to see that these two Venn diagrams, the two circles actually do overlap. There are things that are joyful and sustainable. That's the mindset shift. But we don't stop there. With the workshop, the mindset shift is followed by continual improvement, and there, the joy and sustainable, these actions, the overlap is bigger than you expect. That's continual improvement. We keep finding more joyful and sustainable activities. And after you do the workshop, you become a part of the community, the alumni community. And then we find that living sustainably brings joy. The overlap is almost complete. And it's not just that. Polluting and depleting come to feel repugnant, so that willpower and coercion, they become unnecessary, actually counterproductive. So there's nothing in what I do or teach that's about here's how to use your willpower to stop doing what you really want to do, or here's how to coerce others to do it or manipulate them. That's actually backward. It's helping people live by our values. So the process is the Spodek method goes from thinking activities we like and activities that help the environment don't overlap to finding the mindset shift that they overlap somewhat. The workshop is they overlap a fair amount, and the community afterward is they overlap a lot. The heart of the problem, this mainstream view, if you believe that there's no overlap between these two things, these two types of activities, and you want to help the environment, you have to try to get people to do things they don't want to do. Even if I know that they want to do these things, but they feel like they don't. You have to try to get, and if you feel like they don't, then you have to try to get people to do things that they don't want to. That path requires convincing, cajoling, coercing, manipulating, which I can't stand. And more to the point, they don't work. They do work. They work on getting people to not want to do it anymore. It leads to authoritarianism, which leads people to resist and oppose. Now, after the workshop, if you understand they overlap, as we do, from, as I said, we learn through hands-on practical experience, then that path leads to leadership, entrepreneurship, marketing, and even sales. Then you can lead, even inspire, through intrinsic motivation, not telling people what to do, unearthing motivation that was already there before you ever met them. And that when you connect that motivation, intrinsic motivation to a task, to something they want to do, that creates meaning and purpose. And then you bring people joy and they return gratitude. So again, that mainstream view, when you look at the sustainability efforts that I see, that they come from a lack of hands-on practical experience. It's like people who read books on music appreciation and music theory, but never put their fingers on the keyboard trying to teach piano. Can you imagine trying to teach someone piano and you've only read books, but you haven't actually put your fingers on the keyboard? You haven't tried to live sustainably and you're trying to teach sustainability. Would you take a yoga class from someone who never practiced yoga? Or who thought yoga would make your life worse and your culture worse? After the workshop, hands-on practical experience creates credibility and integrity, which are essential to lead. Try to lead without credibility and integrity, which comes from practical experience. I know of no other method designed to spread and accelerate on its own for sustainability. Everything else, when people lecture me, I don't feel like, thanks for lecturing me, I want to go lecture someone else. But when I learn to act on intrinsic motivation, I want to share that with others so that they can too. So the workshop creates joy and returns gratitude. So to answer the questions, how do you have hope? What's the one thing we can do today to make a difference? So how do you have hope? Through hands-on practical experience. You know, it's capital letters, HOPE, hope through hands-on practical experience. When that experience is effective and leads to global cultural change, not just doing anything, not just blindly protesting, doing stuff that actually works. That's what the workshop leads to. And creates joy and gratitude and reward at every step so that when I share it with someone else, I know that they're going to want to share it with more people too. What's one thing we can do to make a difference? Well, asking that question, imagine asking a smoker or heroin addict, what's one thing I can do to quit? Well, it's not so simple. In fact, asking such a question points to a counterproductive, oversimplified direction. And it's not quite so simple as that. You have to change many parts of your life to change culture, to get past a dependence like that. You have to change habits, you have to change your community, you have to rearrange your home, all sorts of things like that. Starting's hard, but not impossible. So what to do here and now? For what to do? To answer that question, first, read Sustainability Simplified. See how our culture became stuck, why we feel so helpless, but also how to get out, the possible brighter future, and how to make it happen. This is like the roadmap. Step two, take the workshop. Start your mindset shift and your continual improvement. And 3, after you've done those 2, join the community. So you're swimming downstream, not upstream. So that you feel like joyful sustainability is natural. It's fun. And it's what people around you are doing. And we bring the world with us with joy and gratitude. So again, step 1, the big picture and the bright future. The book gives these things. And continuing this music analogy, it's so that you know that playing in an orchestra, in a big concert, a grand performance, not just you solo, but a big production, that's possible. Plus the sheet music. Other books that describe problems and what other people should do by people without hands-on practical experience, this is different than that. Everyone describes it as that. Then we need hands-on practical experience. This is like, you got to play the scales. You want to play in the orchestra, you want to play in Carnegie Hall, you got to practice the basics. You got to practice. And then after you've practiced, you get together with people and you do the workshop, and then we're swimming downstream. That's where the long-term global cultural change happens. And again, that hands-on practical experience, that's where the hope comes from. Now, normally videos for books and courses, they end with something like a big pitch, limited time only, there's guarantees and the usual sales techniques, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want people thinking this is easy or quick, but there's no need here, because now you know that there's a way out, full of joy and work, but reward. And when you share it with others, gratitude, they give you gratitude back. I know that for better, for worse, you're going to see headlines for the rest of your life, that the headlines will always increase of culture, of climate change and Great Barrier Reef being lost and all these things. Those headlines will always tell you, go back and take the workshop, read Sustainability Simplified. And you will feel that anxiety, the depression, the addiction, and there's a way out. And if you don't feel it, other people around you will. And you can help them. So I'm not making this quick or easy, but it is meaningful, rewarding, and effective. It's what people describe as, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. Now you can start with a free video mini course on sustainability leadership below. It's kind of halfway between this video and the book. And it's very valuable. It begins with the actual problem. It's not what you think. It's not the amount of carbon dioxide in the air. It's not the sea level rise. Those are symptoms. So that video, the first video is the actual problem. Then the solution, how to solve the actual problem. Not be distracted by things that look like the problem but aren't actually causing these effects. Then there's the business entrepreneurial opportunity. Because if we want to change things, in today's world, business is leading things. And when you see that you can make other people's lives better, you can offer service. And that's the beginning of the business entrepreneurial opportunity. You can make money doing this. And I think you should, if you can help people's lives. Then there's a political opportunity. We don't just start and end with business. How do we change things through government? And by the way, I'm not talking about big government coercion. You'll be amazed at what we can do. And there's the celebrity opportunity. People crave role models. People are actually trying to live joyfully, sustainably. You don't have to be perfect, but genuine, authentic. Allow your vulnerabilities to show. That's what the Spodek method does. And then our brighter future, tying it all up and saying what we can do. So that's what's to come.